kind of like a why done it. Like I'm trying to figure out why this is going on. Like when you're watching it, you're trying to figure out why is Gordo doing what he's doing. You're trying to understand the whole process. And that's what makes the story so great. I mean, you're watching it in real time, trying to understand and figure out what exactly it is that Gordon is doing. And there are clues to explain the nature of his actions, but you know, it's definitely, they give you just enough to hold your attention all throughout the entire picture. Thematically, pure redemption, and that's all I'm going to say. The past is always the past until it becomes our present and it affects our future. And the other thing you can go with is definitely vengeance. And when it comes to, I know earlier I said, like, the Lord saith, vengeance is mine, but you have to wonder sometimes, if the punishment fits the crime, then why can't we give out some justice, right? Just once. Just once. I know, Lord, I know God or Allah or Buddha or whoever it is that you pray to. I know you said the vengeance is yours, but I got this guy, man, just one time. Let me get him back. Let me get him. And to me, that's one of the themes that's definitely prevalent inside this movie. Structure of the film is a very, very balanced, 3 to 4 act structure. In the beginning, Gordon introduced himself to Simon and Robin. In the second act, Gordon begins giving these gifts, mystifying the couple. About midway through, you see Simon dealing with some demons in his work and his family and Gordon and the whole 9 yards. And then by the third act, it just kind of all comes crashing down. So that's kind of the way the film flows. Now, the director of this movie actually is Joel Edgerton. Matter of fact, he wrote and directed this movie. And, before this, he had done a couple of shorts. So him doing this movie, it was kind of like a big jump for him. And when I watched this, what I took away from it was that his approach was almost personal to me. Like I really felt like Joel was in Gordo. Because I was thinking, like, what writer director kind of puts himself in the position where he's a weak and feeble person against all those who have potentially have wronged him? The performances were great. I thought everyone really gelled together. The scenes flowed seamlessly. The turns and twists were placed in the perfect places. And the shooting of certain scenes from different points of view really gave the character whose eyes you're looking through a sense of urgency and desperation, as some of the other angles as well. So I thought there really weren't too many camera tricks involved in this. Nothing really groundbreaking here. Not a lot of music at all, which to me gives the story a very, very raw, kind of unpolished kind of feel. Now, what worked in this movie, man, the intense slow burn, then the reveal and resolution. Perfectly paced story that holds your attention. What didn't work, I said it before, I'm a flashback guy. But without them, same thing as in Blue Ruin, I guess you have to kind of make things up in your mind. And I guess that's where, the film's genius also lies, like Blue Ruin. You're constantly trying to, pull it together and, see what exactly it is or how bad could it have possibly been. Now, this movie is rated R, mainly because of a lot of the language that's in it. And as far as the unconvincing possibilities, when I apply my Aristotle index to it, there are a few. When you start thinking about the calculated nature of one of the characters, it could be just a little bit too well choreographed and orchestrated. I mean, being able to predict one's moves is not quite easy. Human nature is very, very random, but the story is told so wonderfully well, you practically suspend your disbelief. IMDb also gave this a very strong and solid 7.0. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a smoking 91, and the audience score was also very, very strong, 75. This film, too, using the Cinema and Cocktails rating, got a very, very strong 4 to 4.5 remotes. Joel is awkward and strange and uses himself as this unsettled character to kind of psychologically keep this kind of pressure on you. The ending, simply magnifique. For some, I'll be honest, it may be tough to get through because it does have a very, very slow build. Others may find it so technically precise and paced out that they will enjoy every minute and then watch it again to see if they can pick up on the clues. This movie is definitely worth watching twice. This movie is all about revenge. Gordo brought a reckoning the only way a good drink could bring one. Slowly, steadily, and then all of a sudden. So that's why when I was watching this and I hit the pause button about halfway through, I decided to make a Mexican's Revenge. That's right, A Mexican's Revenge. Now, when you make A Mexican's Revenge, you only need 3 ingredients. You need some tequila, triple sec, and cranberry juice. 1 1/4 ounce tequila, 1 1/4 ounce triple sec. Top it off with cranberry juice. Shake it back and forth, roll it back and forth. Throw a lemon slice in that bad boy, hit it up with a straw, and you are good to go. And you have to be careful because if it's sweet nature with the triple sec and the cranberry juice, because it's what a Mexican revenge does to you. It comes up on you. And when it comes to tequila, it's the one drink that people always swear whenever they have too much tequila, they do some of the most bizarre and weird things that they can never ever seem to explain what happened, or they like black out and I don't know I did this and I was dancing on what table, I can't remember anything. I don't know what happened. I don't know what I did. And when you watch the way this movie plays itself out, Simon is always going to wonder what happened with Gordo. And just like after a bad night of tequila, he may never, ever really know. What is it about little girls when it comes to horror movies? I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get it. Little girls are supposed to be, made of sugar and spice and everything nice, which by the way, it's a little bit cruddy that, boys are snips and snails and puppy dog tails. I mean, what the hell, man? Like, that's what we're made out of? Little puppy dog tails? It's just wrong, and the fact that it has endured. Can we get somebody to like rewrite that poem a little bit? Cause I'm kind of offended by the snails and puppy dog tails. That's awful. It's just bad. Anyway, I digress. But, back to little girls as the focal points of horror films. I mean, we're talking about Poltergeist, The Exorcist, Silent Hill, The Shining, Annabelle, The Conjuring, Carrie, Hereditary, The Ring. Let me tell you something, man. When I first saw The Ring, I was kind of cool throughout the bulk of that movie, except at the end when Samara comes walking out of the TV set. Oh, my Lord. I don't know about y'all, but that was probably one of the few moments where I actually I was like holding like a pillow and was like covering my face. That was some good horror filmmaking. Okay. But anyway, I'm sitting around reading about young girls as horror devices, and I come across an article, and I think Jessica Galang, said it best in an article that she wrote for Vice, and she kind of said, I'm paraphrasing, when we see a young girl, it is perceived to be the most sweet and vulnerable in our society, and when you take advantage of these perceptions to terrorize protagonists, it comes from that place of innocence that is turned into something lethal, and it turns things into a frightening primordial level. It's the vulnerability of the little girl that makes us more willing to be vulnerable ourselves. And it's interesting how that permeates through all different types of cultures and ethnic groups and everything. The little girl is just the sweetest, most wonderful thing in society. So now when we look at the movie, His House, we're focusing on a refugee couple that makes this harrowing escape from war-torn South Sudan. But when they try to adjust to life in their new English town, they find something evil lurking beneath. And I know you're wondering, well, what was that whole opening sequence about, little girls? Well, watch the movie and you'll find out. So, the film stars Sopre Dirsu and Wumi Musaku. Now, both of those individuals are kind of international African stars, so it's kind of hard to track down some of their more notable film entries. But Sopre plays Bol Major, and he was in Gangs of London. He was in something called Humans. He was also in a couple episodes of Black Mirror. That's pretty much where I've seen him from. As far as Wumi goes, she's been a little bit more, on this side of the pond, as they say, I guess you could say. She was in Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. She also was in Philomena. She was in Black Mirror. And as of lately, she's been involved in Lovecraft Country. So you've probably seen Wumi, here or there. As far as the characters that Sope and Wumi play, Sope plays Bol Major. And, Bol begins his story in relief. Okay, when you understand about his past, you really get an understanding why. Now, when I say in relief, I'm saying in relief of the sense that he and Rial out of Sudan. Okay, they were fleeing a civil war, looking for refugee status, which is something that I don't think most people on this planet can even really understand. I mean, to imagine people just wiping each other out for simple religious beliefs or cultural background or ethnic beliefs, it's just. And the way these people do it, I mean, they're shooting women and children, like they're trying to like almost ethnically cleanse things. So it's kind of, I can't even imagine what that must be like. So he's given an opportunity to start a new life. And I tell you what, he refuses to lose that chance. Initially he's very affable, but you can tell he's haunted by something. And, midway through the movie, he slowly becomes kind of angry and tormented. And by the end, he is just flat out tortured and remorseful. So I can honestly say that Bol is not the same guy in the beginning of the movie as he is at the end of the movie. And I guess the only real question that you have to ask yourself is, does he understand his karmic place in the universe? And you'll see what I mean by that once you get further into the film. Rial Major starts off, being very supportive, but she has this kind of hidden inner strength. I mean, she's a good wife who's very grateful for her husband and for escaping, but she also understands the consequences of what has occurred along their journey, and she does wish for it to be resolved. Her strength kind of emerges when she realizes what has to be done. The only question is she willing to do it? Now, when it comes to the dialogue in this movie, there are moments where very little is said, but much is understood. Sometimes subtext really is not needed to convey a hidden message. Sometimes it's just images, it's dream states, the look inside somebody's eyes. They can tell you everything that you need to know. And where a lot of English subtext is done through slick words and double entendres, other languages, they use stories and they use tales of the supernatural to convey a moral story or to convey a message that they want to let somebody know about. So it's kind of interesting to see how this, coming from an African standpoint, really kind of opens your eyes to different ways through which stories can be told. Now, as far as the conflicts go, there's two real conflicts in this thing. The first of which is Bol versus Bol. Okay, he is trying to overcome some of the decisions that he's made in his past, and he's haunted by his own actions that he did when he was trying to survive the Civil War and save Rial. The other conflict is Bol versus the supernatural. Well, what's supernatural? The supernatural is something called an apeth. And the apeth is a night witch or a kind of a demon figure from Dinka culture. And like Forrest Gump once famously said, that's all I'm going to say about that. As far as the plot type of the movie, it's not really a journey or, some type of, chasing things down or a buddy story, whatever. This one really kind of focuses on, when I think about, Blake Snyder's Save the Cat, this one clearly is a monster in the house. Okay. It's Bol, it's the apeth, and there's only one way to overcome the apeth. And that's something that you're just going to have to kind of figure out as the film, transpires. Now, as far as themes go, I definitely want to say that there's definitely pure redemption. Bol is having to pay for his sins, and Rial, unfortunately, is kind of complicit. Only by confronting himself and the demons of this past will he be able to live with himself and move forward. And the other theme I thought that was kind of interesting as I was reading more about this film is the idea of acceptance and how immigrants have to kind of adapt to their surroundings. Like when you first see them when you first see Bol and Rial in England, it's kind of weird. Like they're trying to, kind of figure their way out. And Rial is she's kind of staying to herself, but Bol is like legitimately trying to get out there and assimilate. And I think what the director was talking about when I was reading about this article that he written, he was talking about essentially that, it's difficult how immigrants have to adapt to the surroundings, but not forget who they are and learn how to forgive themselves and the mistakes that they've made along those